Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Very well. Very well.
Nice. Well, we just got off of a interesting...
You're not buying it, are you? That's why you're laughing over there. You're not buying it.
Because I know we just transitioned. Guys, as we record these, Tim and I always end up talking at least 30 minutes or more before. We plan on recording at a certain time, which, happens to be about 4 p.m. UK time on a Friday for Tim, 8 a.m. for me on the same Friday, obviously. And we end up talking usually for at least 30 minutes into it, if not longer, and kind of cut Tim off in a kind of I'll call it a spirited discussion, so we can make sure we get at least one or two of these episodes out coming through. So, Tim, I appreciate you being able to transition and make sure this gets out for the guys. That's really
Let's see. Let's see how this goes, and we can see whether I've transitioned or not.
Good point. So, Tim, I had an interesting conversation. So it was, I'm trying to think how I can say this without giving the person away. But I was talking to a married man, and I don't know him very well. And this was somebody outside of the movement per se. So, I think he would be great in the movement. But he started telling me, he's like, Doug, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And, as long as my wife doesn't know or doesn't affect her directly, I just don't think she needs to know. And what he was doing were things that clearly his wife did not approve of. And I'm talking about, he was microdosing, drinking on the side, going places that she probably didn't approve of, etc. And he was sharing all this with me in a conversation. It was actually in a car ride. I was giving him a ride because, he was visiting. And he was sharing all this with me. And I couldn't help but think, man, what is that relationship like, right? What is that relationship like on, behind closed doors if he's sharing this with me so openly about the things he's hiding from his partner? What is that? And then, which also brings me to the conversation point, Tim, is what is okay to hide from your partner? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
First of all, your friend sounds like a cool guy.
All my friends are cool guys.
What was the question? What is okay to hide from your partner or share with your partner?
What is okay to hide from your partner?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's I've often contemplated this myself because obviously desire, right, comes from mystery. And things like, planning date nights or certain things you might be doing for yourself, not necessarily for yourself, but for example, you did a fast, right, the other week.
Yep.
You didn't tell Erin that you were doing a fast. She just, by day 2, she'd noticed that you weren't eating when the rest of the family were eating, or, you're doing things differently, right? And she asked you at that point, hey, what are you doing? You didn't hide it from her, you told her. So it's not like you hid it. But the point I'm making is, I imagine if it was other things that you had going on in your life, they might have just come up in the normal flow of conversation during the day, right? Obviously we've both worked with the same intimacy coach, and part of one of the practices she gets you to do is a check-in, right? At the end of the day. Hey, how was your day? And leaning into each other's day. So the point I'm making is, I imagine usually, for the most part, during that point, things you just share, hey, I've started a fast, right? But you chose to not start it for whatever reason. You chose to not tell her. For whatever reason, you chose not to tell her. So, things like that where I think it's coming from a good place. When I say a good place, I mean a healthy place, right? It's not going to detract in any way from the relationship, or it's not going to affect Erin, although, maybe moods and hunger might do, but you get the gist, right? And I'd potentially maybe even say something similar about microdosing too, but as I'm thinking about this, I think of Amelia, right? And I put myself in those shoes. If I was to be microdosing, and I was to hide it from Amelia, well, I'd more than likely be hiding it because I know that she wouldn't be in agreement, right? And it's okay to be in disagreement in the relationship. But if she had really strong feelings against drugs, let's just say, even though it's microdosing, but let's just say she categorizes it as drugs. And to her, drugs are something that are evil for whatever reason, right? Maybe experiences she's had or whatever it is. And I know that me microdosing is something that kind of violates her values. And I'm going to hide it from her because I know it's something she strongly wouldn't want me doing. I don't think that's okay to do. Whereas if she doesn't agree with it, but I know that she's probably not going to agree, yeah, I also know that I'm going to be able to stand my ground on this and, explain why it's important to me and why I'm doing it. She's probably going to be understanding, although she's not going to do it herself or be on board with it. She's going to understand. Then that's different, right? But even then, I'd still, the only way I'd not tell her is if I wanted to avoid the confrontation, right? Because maybe the relationship isn't strong enough for us to have that kind of confrontation relationship, right? Because there's been so many hurts in the past and so much mistrust. So I just don't want to open something up. But even then, that's not obviously a healthy thing to do because you're repeating the cycle. So I hope I'm answering your question. I think I am. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay. So I think I understand what you're saying. You kind of went around it a little bit there. But I think we're on the same page here. And what I find interesting here is two things. One is, that this guy told me, right? You don't just talk about that unless everybody knows what I do. It's no mystery for what you do too as well, right? And so, when a married man starts talking about openly his relationship and things like that right off the bat, you kind of check, you have checkpoints. As a coach, I've been coaching for over 20 years. So you have checkpoints along the way. The second thing is, what kind of distance does that put in the relationship when you're constantly having to lie? Because it's different when you're trying to create mystery, right? You're trying to create mystery and intimacy in the relationship by not saying something, right? Date night, or you don't mention the fact that you've been working out really hard because you want to surprise her, you want to add a little element of mystery. It could be argued there's a lie there, right? There's a white lie without disclosure. However, I think it's the purpose behind the manipulation and the intent that is the most important here. And I shared the story for this podcast, not for this gentleman. He's an amazing guy, by the way. But it's really because there's so many of us that go through this. What can we say? What can we not? And it's so easy to fall into the trap of, it doesn't hurt her, if she doesn't know. So why should I bother her? Right. And guys, as men, we do that with work. There could be a struggle in the business. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we all go through struggles, and maybe we just don't want to tell them, right? Maybe we don't want to tell her. And then eventually she finds out too late that the business isn't successful. But also where this can go in is it can bleed into where's the line, right? Where's the line of the lies, of what you don't tell, what you don't say?
Can I talk now? Sorry, you've been on a great flow and you're saying so many great things, and so many things are sparking off in my mind as you're saying them. And yeah, in terms of where is the line, I think it can very easily become a habit where it just builds and builds and builds. And before you know it, starts with a small thing. And then before you know it, it's bleeding into other areas. So I think it's a great inquiry to be in, right? And at the same time, I do wonder, right? Because part of it surely is how strong is a relationship, or what position is a relationship in? Because let's say, for example, you are getting back into shape, right? And you're leaving home early to go to the gym to work out before work, and you're heading out the door in your work stuff and your work attire, and your wife just thinks you're going to work, and you're leaving her at home with the kids, and you don't want to tell her that you're going to the gym because she may be annoyed or jealous, or it might, open up a conversation that really isn't actually a major problem, but because of everything else that's going on in the relationship and the shaky foundation it's on, it's kind of like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? The tiniest thing. So, I mean, but I agree. There's the flip side of that is if you're lying and hiding, then it's easy to get into a vicious cycle. And if you're avoiding certain conversations, then, it puts distance between you guys. And yeah, I get it. And you can't really return home with the full presence of a masculine guy to lead her if you're lying and hiding about going to the gym in the morning.
Well, yeah, it's just indicative of other problems within the relationship. And what I would argue, per se, to the guys listening to this, it's indicative of problems within inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you take a stand for what you believe in? Why do you feel you have to hide it? Now, to be fair, early on in my early 20s, I felt that was the way to go. I just won't tell her, right? Regardless. Now, I wasn't married, but talking about girlfriends and, I'm young and what have you. And it made a lot of sense to me, right? Just not to say, it doesn't bother her, it doesn't hurt her. I'll avoid the argument. I'll avoid the difficult conversation. It's just easier this way. No harm, no foul. All of these things we tell ourselves to justify our actions. Right? I'm not 20 anymore. Right? If anybody's watching this on YouTube, you could tell, right? And now what I've realized through time, and guys that are going through a hard time, I want you to hear this, is every little lie or deceit adds up. It all takes its toll. And when I've learned, we talk about this at the Alpha Reset, in particular, guys that are listening to us that have been to the Alpha Reset, they're going to resonate with this right away. So when you're standing in your power and the man that you are as a powerful man, you can have any conversation, right? Mm. And guys have heard me talk about, hey, I'm going to this destination. I have a side seat. The passenger seat is for you. I want you to come along with me. I'd love for you to join me, but I'm going. It's not maybe I'll go. Should I go? I'm actually going. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm very firm in it. And I believe it's the right thing to do. And I think that's the difference, Tim, is if I believe it's the right thing, microdosing as an example, whatever, then I'm going to have a very intelligent conversation with my partner, understand her worries. What is it she's truly worried about? And really listen to her and then make a decision as a man from that. Am I going to do it? Yes or no? Or am I going to, maybe it's education for her. Maybe she's scared that I'm going to go down the path and start doing heroin. Who knows, right? Everybody's got their stories. But until I give her that opportunity to voice her opinion, I'm really taking the power away from her.
Yeah, great point. And the other thing as well about the lies, not only does it create distance in the relationship, it builds shame.
Oh, for sure.
Well. It stacks with every lie that you tell yourself. It becomes, as those lies stack and the shame stacks over months and years, you find yourself using so much willpower and energy to convince yourself of the person you are, right? Because you've got so much shame and lies and, shame and lies stacked that it's tipping the scales. It's weighing it down as to this is who you really are. You're a liar. You walk in through the door in the evening, you go and give your wife a kiss. How was your day? You mention nothing about the gym. And then, it starts to, like we said, bleed over into the thing. So yeah, I mean, the flip side of it as well is it becomes very difficult to operate with all of that. It consumes so much energy just to carry it.
You're out of integrity too, right? And so it's kind of one of those ideas. I love this when I play competitive sports, right? You're golfing now, so you'll get this. And one of the things you say in business is one of the reasons you would go golfing with somebody before you do a business deal is you get to see how they operate. Do they kick the ball out of the rough? Do they take an extra stroke, or what have you? It's not a big deal. The tree's in my way, no big deal. Let me just throw it on the fairway, or I'm going to change my card so it looks better, right? When I was playing soccer, you see some of these guys and they're business leaders in the community, and they were jerks. They were, fouling guys on purpose, cussing people out, what have you. They're like, I'll never do business with you. Because the way you're acting here, how are you going to tell me it's going to be different somewhere else? Right? As you do one thing, you do all. You can hide and compartmentalize temporarily. But you can't hide who you are as a man, right? You just can't. And so it's just a great barometer. And guys, I'm going to invite you guys listening, or just, where are you in stepping up as a man in these situations? Now, granted, like I said, it's not your fault. We've been taught through, mass media, movies, that this is kind of the way to do it, right? The path of least resistance. You just don't tell your mother, right? Maybe our fathers told us that. Or just don't tell them. It's not hurting them. It's not harming them. These justifications, it's not your fault because we've been told to do this for so long. But I'm here to tell you the other side of that isn't one you want to walk down, right? The other side of doing that is really going to be a slippery slope. You're going to start justifying other things in your life. You're going to start justifying other actions. And that's when you're going to reach a point where it's too late. Right? It's never really too late, but it's later than you want to be. And, it's going to cause distance, separation, sexless relationships, because she's going to feel that something's up. And maybe she's doing it too, because, hey, he's doing it. He's lying about the gym, or lying about microdosing, or lying about this or that. So why shouldn't I? Certainly not going to foster trust.
No. And it's those little things as well, when she then starts to grab your mobile phone and you're like, no, don't go on there, because you're in a WhatsApp group with your gym buddies, or that you're messaging one of your gym buddies and sending a picture of a workout and you're worried she's going to see it. And like, give my phone back. And she's like, that's weird. Why? You never used to do that. It comes out. It comes out in really, and if you don't do that, then you've got to sit on the sofa, like feeling so much tension. Is she going to see the picture? And she looks over at you and you're like, oh. So either way, if you don't say anything, she still can tell that, you're hiding something. So it's so true. Do you know, for me, Doug, when I, a few years ago, when I, how to say this? I went through that period where I called off the wedding and got rid of the business partner, all that kind of stuff, right? One of the things I did during that process was just get all the skeletons out of the closet. And it was the most one of the most liberating things I've ever done. And what that taught me was the power of honesty. And it became really addictive, because as soon as those skeletons are out of the closet, whenever one of them goes back, you feel it.
Yes.
And once you've felt so light and free, because in that place where you've got nothing to hide and nothing to prove, you just feel you can glide through life. You become bulletproof, right? Yep. So then when the skeletons go back in, you're like, no way, no. So honesty for me was always, ever since then, has been a way. And, I'm not perfect by any means, but, at times skeletons do go back in, and I realize, right, I've got to I get to have an honest conversation with that person, or whatever it's about, right? Because I don't want to keep them there, because like we're talking about here, I know the price that I pay when I carry the burden of the lies that turn into shame, that turns into guilt, that turns into stress and everything else that goes with it. And it's just not something that I'm willing to live with, because it's not worth it. You don't need to live with it.
Yeah, I'm 100% agreement. And so guys, listening to this, what I'd love for you to take from this discussion is, where are you hiding out in your relationship by lying? And where are you making up a story that, hey, she doesn't need to know. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's in your business, or maybe it's in your relationship. Where are you doing this? And then how do you get to come clean? We have something called the clean slate method. If you guys want some basics on that, go over to the Facebook group, raise your hand there. We're actually having a cool conversation right now. So this is going to be released. That'll be finalized around that topic. But clear those skeletons, as Tim said, out of your closet. I've done it. Tim's done it. I can tell you it's a much, much better situation, because you do become bulletproof. You're able to stand in your own power, and you almost become, we say Teflon, right? Everything bounces off of you, because it's like, hey, I'm just me. If you're a good guy and a decent guy, and I know you are, if you're listening to a podcast or watching this or a show like this, you definitely are, right? You're one of the 1%. And we want you guys to be walking tall. Tim, any closing remarks for these guys?
Yeah, the one thing I'd add to that, what you've said, is kind of touching it, but I want to be clear. Not only where are you hiding out in your relationship, but how is that bleeding over into the other areas? Just look at it. You might be listening thinking, no, it's not. It's just my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet if you were to really sit with it and just examine, okay, well, how honest am I in business? Do I follow through with what I say in negotiations? Do I really tell the team what I'm thinking? Whatever you want to go through, right? How honest am I in other relationships, friendships even? How honest am I with myself, with my own standard? And can I trust my own word? Do I believe it when I say I'm going to do something? Do I actually believe that I'm going to do it? Because if you don't believe you're going to follow through, then, imagine how hard it is to create what you really want if you don't even believe your own word. So have a look at how it's filtering out across other areas of your life. And then, like Doug said, Clean Slate Method is a really great one, specifically for relationships. Although you could also use it for not just the intimate relationship, you could use it for other relationships too.
Sure.
And head over to the Facebook group, like Doug said too, because it's all in there.
Awesome stuff. I love the conversation as always, Tim. So thank you so much. Gentlemen, that's a wrap for us at The Powerful Man Show. As always, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus and get a free training from Tim himself. Until next time, guys, have an amazing week and clear those skeletons out of your closet. We'll see you again in The Powerful Man Show.